So, good morning class. I am Jeremy Sataniquito, so I will be your teacher for this whole session. So before we proceed to our discussion, let us have first some activities. So this activity is related to our topic for today. So are you familiar with the 4 picks in 1 word? Okay, so for those who are not familiar in this game, the mechanics of this game is just simple. I will show you 4 pictures, and what you need to do is to guess a 1 word that those 4 pictures are portraying. So let's start. Let us first take a look for the first set of picture. So for our first set of picture, we have, okay, so is there anybody who wants to try it? Yes. Okay, very good. So what comes into your mind that this first set of pictures are portraying a computer? Okay, I agree because that this first picture is obviously shows a computer, and also in second and third and fourth computer or third picture are portraying computer. Okay, so, okay, next set of picture we have, okay, who wants to guess this picture? Yes, very good. So the correct answer is technology. So, okay, let's go to the last set of picture, and we have this one. So, is there anybody who wants to guess it? Yes. Very good. So now, do you have any idea on what is our topic for today? Yes. So very good. So our topic for today is all about ICT. So can you recall the meaning of ICT, or ICT stands for what? Yes. So very good. So ICT stands for Information and Computer Technology. So let's go now, or let's proceed to the discussion or to our topic for today. So let us define first what is the meaning of ICT. So ICT is the technology required for information processing, in particular the use of electronic computers, communication devices, and software applications to convert, store, protect, process, transmit, and retrieve information anytime, anywhere. Okay? So the term information and communication technology collectively refers to technologies, both hardware and software, that enables humans to communicate with one another. So ICT is not just focusing on computer. So we also have ICT, which is hardware and software. So it is common misconception that ICT is internet or computer alone. So basically, it is any form that enable us to communicate. So let us define also the meaning of information, communication, and technology. Okay. So information refers to the knowledge obtained from reading, investigation, study, or research. The tools to transmit information are the telephone, television, and radio. Information is knowledge and help us to fulfill our daily tasks. So anytime, anywhere, we can really have some information, or we can gain some information, especially when we are using telephone, television, and radio, and etc. So communication is an act of transmitting messages. It is a process whereby information is exchanged between individuals using symbol, sign, or verbal interaction. So communication is important in order to gain knowledge. So in order for us to gain knowledge, we need to have communication, which is communication is an act of transmitting messages. So we also have technology. So technology is the use of scientific knowledge, experience, and resources to create processes, products to fulfill human needs. Technology is a vital in communication. So technology is vital in communication. Okay. So in ICT, we also have 4 main periods in history of ICT. So we have pre-mechanical period, mechanical period, and electromechanical period, and the last one is we have electronic. So let's go first to the first period in the history of ICT. So we have pre-mechanical period, which around 3000 BCE to 1450 CE. So humans started to communicating with one another using words and pictograms carved in rocks. And then they started to write symbols as substitute for pictures and depict ideas, objects, and animals. So as you can see that even before they are already using or they already have ICT, which is their ICT, they are using a rocks or they are using a stone for them to store knowledge or for them to store information rather. So this gave rise to our modern day alphabet. So even before they are already using a alphabet. So time passed and early humans soon realized that stone tablets are too heavy and bulky. So they are not satisfied because the stone tablet is heavy and bulky. And stored information was growing and writing this information on a stone tablet was impractical. So based on their experience, they said that the stone tablet is very impractical because it is too heavy and too bulky, and it is not easy for them to bring those stone tablet and for them to use that in exchanging information to other person. So when paper was produced from the papyrus plant, storing information was revolutionized. So even before they are already using a paper for them to store information. Okay. So humans continued to write information that can be organized and kept as permanent record. So they are already using a book so that they can have a permanent record. So they compiled this record written on paper and bound them together, eventually giving birth to books. So as I said earlier, that they are already using a books because they bound the paper and they write on paper. So it is the giving birth to the books. Okay, as these books grew in number, they needed to be compiled and stored in areas, hence library was created. So in the pre-mechanical period, they created already a library. So even or until now, we still have library. Okay. So also in pre-mechanical period, in the last stage of this period, humans started to using numerical system. This numerical system is spread around the world, enabling a simpler, faster, and more organized way to count. So even in this period, in the late stage of this period, they are also focusing on the numerical system. So humans started to invent ideas and techniques in counting. So they want to invent something for them to count easily. Okay. Okay. So the most popular device created in this period is abacus. So take note on that, guys. Class that they created in this period they created a abacus. So the abacus is what? Okay, so the abacus is manually operated device similar to the modern calculator. So abacus is a calculator. So the abacus was considered the first device to process information. Okay. So let us proceed to the second period in the history of ICT. We have mechanical period, which is around 1450 to 1840. So this period served as the bridge between our current period and the pre-mechanical period. So interest in automating and speeding up numerical calculating grew. The machine driven by mechanical means such as steam and gears dominated information processing and calculation. This period also concentrated primarily on development of machines that will enhance the calculation speed. So what I said earlier, that in the first history of ICT or in the first period of the history of ICT, they are focusing in the calculating or calculation. Okay, so the highlights of this period or the highlights of the mechanical period is the advent of the mechanical calculator called the Pascaline, which was invented by the famous mathematician Blaise Pascal. So who invented the Pascaline? Yes. So very good. So Blaise Pascal invented the Pascaline. So this device inspired other inventors to automate counting and calculation. One of these inventors was Charles Babbage, a mathematician. So Blaise Pascal inspired other inventors or other mathematicians. He inspired Charles Babbage. So Charles Babbage is also a mathematician. So he invented the analytical engine, considered as the first programmable mechanical computer. So analytical engine was invented by Charles Babbage. So the analytical engine first invented by Charles Babbage in 1837. So this is the picture of the analytical engine. Okay. So Charles Babbage invented this analytical engine the 1837. So it contains features such as arithmetic, logic, control flow, and integrated memory. So let us proceed to the third one, which is the electromechanical period, which is around 1840 to 1940. So this period ushered a new age in communication and information. The use of electricity for information handling and transfer bloomed. The need and urgency to share information with one another in a faster yet reliable manner over a long distance. Okay, so in this period, they are now using electricity for them to operate the tools that they already invented on that time. So this period saw the use of telegraph to transmit information over long distance. So because they are now because they are using electricity at that time, they invented a telegraph. So telegraph is for them to operate the telegraph, they really need electricity. So the telegraph is considered as the first electrical communication device. Okay, so it was the first device to use electricity to transmit information over electrical media. So it is invented by William Cooke and Sir Charles Wheatstone. So this is the picture of a telegraph. Maybe some of you are familiar on this picture or are familiar on this device. And humans were not satisfied with transmitting symbols or letters over long distance. So as we can see that in the first period, they are not satisfied on the stone tablets. But in this period, even though they are now using electricity, they are not also satisfied on the telegraph because they are not happy to receive or transmit a message by symbols or letters over a long distance. So they became fascinated with the voice transmission. So in 1876, Graham Bell was granted the patent for the telephone. So in this period, they already invented a telephone, they are also needed a electricity for them to operate a telephone. So the telephone was later invented, enabling voice transmission over long distances. Okay, so the last period in the history of ICT, we have electronic period, so which is around the 1940. So the last period in ICT, electronumerical integrator and computer. The first electronic and general purpose computer marked a revolutionary period in computing. So occupies an area of 167 square meters. So do you imagine that this electronumerical integrator and computer is occupying an area of 167 square meters. So the computer before is so very big, so it can occupy say 167 square meters. So aside from big size, its processing speed was slower than machines used today. So even though the electronumerical integrator and computer is so big, but the processing or the processor of that device is slower than the machine that we are using today. Okay, so let us proceed also to the generation of computers. So we have the first generation, we have second generation, third generation, fourth generation, and the last one, which is fifth generation. So the first generation, we have this one. Also the first generation, the time period is 1951 to 1959. So the size is very large system, and the technology is a vacuum tubes. So in 1951 to 1959, in the first generation, they invented a vacuum tubes. So the processing is very slow. So this computer is also big like the electronumerical integrator and computer. So it is the same also that their processor or the processing of those devices is very slow than the machine that we are using today. Okay, so electronic numerical integrator and computer was the first electronic general purpose computer. So we already discussed that, so let us proceed to the second generation. So we have this one. So this is the second generation. Okay, so the time period of the second generation is around 1959 to 1963. So the technology in this period, or in this generation, is transistors. So the size is smaller. So processing is faster. So they want to upgrade their devices. So unlike to the devices before, in the first generation, they have a big size of technology like ENIAC and like the vacuum tube. And also their processor is also upgraded, so it is not slower, but it becomes faster. Okay, so we also have the third generation, this one. So the time period of the third generation is around 1963 to 1975. Okay, so the technology is the ICs or ICS, or ICS stands for integrated circuits. So incorporated many transistors and electronic circuits on a single chip. Okay, so the size is small as compared to the second generation computer. So it become more smaller than to the devices or to the technology that we have before, or that we have in the second generation. So the processing or the processor of this on this generation is faster than second generation computers. Okay. So we also have fourth generation, this one. So some of us are familiar on this picture. This is a old model of computer. So I think we can still see this kind of computer, but it is very limited because the monitor that we have right now is very thin, very it is not heavy than to the computer before. Okay. So okay. So let us proceed to the next one. So also we will see here the changes of our technology today. Okay, so let us proceed to the first picture. We have this one. As you can see, before we have a telephone, and today we have a mobile phone or cell phone. So if we were going to compare those two, actually they are similar. They are devices that can help us to communicate with the other person in a long distances. So the similarity or the difference rather of these two picture or of these two devices is the telephone is not a wireless. Unlike to the mobile phone that we have right now, it is a wireless. So cell phone or mobile phone can we bring anytime, anywhere. Unlike telephone, maybe the telephone can just stay on our house. Okay, so let us proceed to the second one. We have this picture. And to watch live TV, entertainment when you want it. So because of the advancement of technology today, it can easy for us to watch a video by browsing it, by searching it. Even though even you are not in your houses, you just need to do is to search. But for you to search that videos, you need to have a load today, right? So next picture, we have albums full of photos you never look at. Hard drive full of photos you never look at. So before, we have a lot of books. But actually, until now, we have a lot of books. That there's a lot of information, there's a lot of pictures, and full of photos, right? But today, we have a hard drive that is full of photos. Okay, let us proceed to the next picture. We have, okay. So what do you think is this? Yes. Okay, very good. So computer before cost thousands and took up entire rooms. Computers are more affordable and some are no bigger than a box of cereal. So as I said earlier that the computer before is very big and the processor is very slow than to the machine that we are using today. So as you can see in the image that the computers cost thousands and took up entire rooms, just like ENIAC, which occupies an area of 167 square meters. So as you can see now, the computers are more affordable and some are bigger than a box of cereal. Okay, so the next one is, okay, send party invites through the mail and no one would show up. So now, send party invites through Facebook, people are SBPD and still no one showed up. Okay, so before, it is hard for them to transmit or to receive the messages because if we're going to use the telegraph, which is around the, I think it is the second period in the history of ICT, they are using telegraph. so that they can communicate to the other person in a long distances. But the problem on that devices is that when you send a message or when you send information to your family or to your friend, they can receive that. Maybe it takes a long time, it takes a long day. So today, just using a cell phone, mobile phone, because of the advancement of the technology, as I said earlier, it can easy for us to send a message anytime, anywhere, and it can easy for them to receive the messages that we send to them. Okay, so this one we have. So in 1983, as you can see, we have a big monitor, unlike to the monitor that we have right now. As you can see in the image, the cat cannot sleep on the monitor that we have today because the monitor that we are using right now is very thin and it is not heavy. So the monitor before, or the television before, is heavier than to the monitor or the television that we have today. So the next picture we have, okay, as you can see, this is a computer. So as you can see, the computer before is very big and very big, and also it is very heavy, right? So as you can see in the image, the computer before is just like a briefcase or a toolbox. But as you can see, or the computer that we are using today is very thin. It is not heavy, so that we can bring the computer or laptop anytime, anywhere. Okay. So the last one is the difference between the telephone or the mobile phone that we have before. So before, the telephone that we have that time, or the maybe in the first or second generation, the telephone that we have in that period is very big, and it is keypad type of cell phone. But today, we have a touchscreen. So because of the advancement of our technology, okay. So thank you for listening. This is our topic for today. So later on, we will have some quiz.